Hi guys, today we're doing unique number of occurrences. So we're given an array of integers and they want us to return true if the number of occurrences of each value in the array is unique or false otherwise. So in this example, we're given this array and we output true because 1 has 3 occurrences, 2 has 2, and 3 has 1. So there's 3 ones here, there's 2 2s, and there's 1 3 in the array. So none of these numbers appear the same number of times as each other. And so in this example too, we return false because each of these numbers appear once, and so that they appear the same number of times. And so in example 3, we output true because 0 we have twice, 1 we have 4 times, -3 we have 3 times, and 10 we have once. So those are all different, like each number appears a different number of times. So to keep track of the count of each number, we're going to use a hash map. So we're going to want to loop through the array, and every time we encounter a number, we're going to add it to our map. So we initialize our map, and then when we come across 1, we're going to map 1 to 1 because we've seen 1 so far. And then 2, we do not have a 2 yet, so we're going to map 2 to 1. And then when we come across another 2, we're going to increment that to 2. And then when we get to this 1, we're going to increment this to 2. And then at this 1, we're going to increment this one to 3. And then when we get to 3, we're going to add 3 as a new key and then make the value of that 1. So this is what our map would look like for this array. And then once we have our map of each number to mapping to their count, we now need to check if the number of occurrences of each value is unique. So we're going to have to loop through the map and check if each of these values are unique from each other. So we cannot have any duplicates. And so to do that, we're going to want to build a set to keep track of our all of the numbers that we have already, like all of the number of occurrences that we already have as we iterate through. So in this case, we would go through and add, do we check if, so we iterate through the map, we check, do we have a 3 in our set? We do not, so we can add a 3. And then when we get to 2, we check, does our set have a 2? And it does not, so we add a 2. And then we check, does our set have a 1? It does not, so we add 1. And then we've reached the end of the map and there's no duplicates, so we can return true here. So I'm going to show you again with this example, just because it's an example where it would output false. So when we build out our map here, we are going to check, does our map have a 1? It does not, so we're going to map 1 to 1. And then when we get to 2, we do not have a 2 in our map, so we're going to map 2 to 1. And then we've reached the end of the array. So this is our map for this array. And then when we build our set to check if every single number of occurrences is unique or not, then we are going to check, does our set have a 1? No, so we're going to add 1 to our set. And then here we have another one, so we're going to check, does our set have a 1? And it does already have a 1. So since it already has a 1, we are not going to add it. We are just going to return false and exit out after that. So let's start with building our algorithm. So we first need to initialize our hash map of integer to integer. And then we're going to loop through the array to build out our map, just like I showed you up here. So okay, and then we're gonna add that as a key, and then we're going to, for the value, so if we already had that key, we're gonna increment it, and if we did not, we're just gonna set it to 1. So okay, and then this is gonna build out our map. So now that our map is built out, then we want to initialize our set and add all of the unique values to our set. So and then we're going to loop through all of the values in the map to add them to the set. So sorry, not keys, our values. So if our set does not contain, so first of all, actually, if our set already contains it, then we can just go ahead and return false. Otherwise, we can add that value to the set. So, and then if we are done iterating through the entire map and we don't find any duplicates, then we can just return true at the end. So let's see. Okay, and then, so here, let's pull this down so we can see. Our time is going to be O of n, where n is the number of elements in our array. Because, so we have two loops going on here. We have this one and this one. And in our first loop, we are iterating through every single element in the array to put them in the map. So that's already O of n, just because we have to visit every single element. And then in the second loop, we are iterating through the values in the map. And so worst case, if every single number is unique, like in this second example here, then our map is still going to have to store every single number just with a count of 1. And so we are still going to have to iterate through n number of elements in the second loop as well. So then we have O of n for the time, and then for the space, it's also going to be O of n, because we have two data structures here. We have this map and we have the set. And if we look at what our map is storing, so again, worst case, if every single number in our array is unique, we're going to have to store n number of elements, or n number of keys mapping to n number of values, so same thing. But then down here for our set, our set is going to store less values, because if every single number is unique, then we're storing it with a count of 1 in the map, and then we only store, but then since all of the counts are the same, we're only storing 1. So our set, if it's worst case for the map, it's actually best case for the set. And vice versa, right? So if these are all different, then our set is going to store the number of different numbers that we have in our array, if that makes sense. But either way, the map is still going to be O of n worst case, and so our space is going to be O of n. So that's it for this problem. Thank you guys for watching, and let me know what problem I should do next. Bye.